Hey, hi Pooja. Hi Richa. How are you guys?
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good, sir. How's about you?
I'm doing good, Pooja. Thank you for asking. So, Richa, are you a new one joining in? Richa, can you please just introduce yourself? Uh,
Hello, sir. Just a sec. I'm trying to connect to my AirPods because
oh
I'm
yeah.
actually in office, and
Oh,
from office itself, I'm trying to connect exactly
oh,
for like a half an hour before my meeting. So I'll try to connect my
yeah.
AirPods
Just
now.
just take your time.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, hi Hemant. How are you?
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. So just let's wait for a minute or two before we can start with the class. So you guys also had a class with respect to CVP analysis before this? So, Pooja, did you have any other class before this, like CVP?
No, sir. Before no.
Okay.
But yes, sir. At 9 p.m. Is our regular class.
Yeah, 9 to 11, right? It was?
Yes, sir. 9 to 11.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Oh, okay. So Richa, is everything good? I mean, are you able to fix?
Yeah. Hello, sir. Yeah, I be audible? I'm audible actually.
Yeah, 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 you're
Ajinkya.
perfectly audible. So just let me
So,
know about the background. Where are you from?
yeah, sure. Exactly. I am presently I'm in Qatar. I'm working for Qatar Energy as the analyst, but because I'm not from like FI background, I'm a BTech IT. I have got graduated from Galgodias College in 2013, and since then I've been working for SAP FI. Of course, as in the basic concepts are clear for me because I've been working now for like 9 years with a gap of few years in between. But as in from FI background, I'm not from FI background, so I'm not very clear and confident onto it. So there is some or the other gap into basic concepts for accounting entries, particularly related to different, as in heads of finance. But yeah, my main aim for pursuing CMA is to have some accounting background with a degree as in to stand into corporate.
Right, right, right. So when you say about FI, so what exactly that
Mhm.
means? Like,
As in, you're talking about in my organization or
yeah, yeah. In general, I mean, like when you refer to FI, what exactly it means? What you're referring?
so as of now, like in my organization, I'm onto the business side of finance. So earlier I was with Accenture in India, so that was from the IT side. So there was a configuration part of it which I was doing into. So
Okay, so
SAP
it's basically
FI,
IT kind of a thing. I mean, just to
correct. Yeah,
uh,
because in Accenture I was doing the basic configurations of the finance setup, like be it related to say asset, be it related to APA, all
oh yeah,
those mainly
got you, got you. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was doing
Thank you.
the configuration, but
And
now I am
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
handling both.
Yeah. And what about your post-graduation, graduation, and like,
So I haven't done post-graduation. I'm a graduate BTech, as in Bachelor's in Technology from IT background. So since
oh,
then, after my graduation, I've joined Accenture, then Deloitte, and then also one company in Qatar, but it did not work with my maternity and stuff, so I have left
okay.
the job. So yeah, mainly I have worked into the IT side more of SAP FI, and because I'm BTech IT, so I've never been into core business. But this time, uh, I want
So,
more base of FI, exactly finance to be clear, so that I can be
right,
part
right,
of
right,
business.
right. So you have been working in basically FICO, to be very fair.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay, fine.
SAP.
Yeah, so I mean, see, for CMAs, I've been telling this to other people as well. At Uplift, what they do is they have a regular classes which go from Monday to Thursday, and
Mhm.
then so it's a regular faculty, a more experienced one, which basically guides them through a full-fledged faculty which will help them in clarifying the concepts and having kind of a grip over the field. And then they have a buddy mentor session wherein I take that session. That happens every Friday, wherein people have lots of doubts. I mean, there are some educational doubts, there are some general doubts, there are some issues with the confidence, there are some issues with the preparation part. So these are the things which students usually don't discuss with their regular mentors because they are a bit hesitant, and there is a kind of an age gap in between. That's why. So as a buddy mentor, what my job is to make sure that the concepts which they are learning in their main classes, I tend to revise those concepts in kind of a very simplified manner. We try to discuss a lot of things. It's kind of a very open session wherein everybody is open to their opinions. They can share their views. They can email me. They can WhatsApp me at any time. Whatever doubt. So it's basically an open forum wherein whatever doubt you have, it could be anything. So it's ask me anything, wherein you could just pinch in a doubt to
Yeah.
me. We'll try to discuss over the things, and that's how the things have been working. And then on Saturday, Sundays, they have their kind of a mock tests and all. So that's how the pattern has been for the Uplift. And
Correct, yeah.
when it comes to CMA as a whole, like I am a qualified CMA, I was associated with Uplift. So I like in 2020, I started association with Uplift as a student initially, and then got converted
Mhm.
into a faculty now. Uh, Overall, I have an MBA in finance as well. So it's a CMA US certification, then an MBA finance. I also hold a diploma in accounting. Uh, I'm a BCom graduate, plus I have almost 10 years of experience now. So initially it was more into core accounting for a couple of years, and then I moved on to consulting. I'm based in the UAE right now in Dubai, and I
Okay.
give strategic advices to the business with respect to how they want to grow, what kind of strategies they need to be implemented in their business for the growth and all those kind of things. And that's the reason, I mean, the bridge between my career change or kind of a shift change was basically CMA from 2020 or probably 2019 and 2020. uh, so CMA will help you to take those crucial business decisions which a top management requires. So for you, your profile is into IT. You already know how SAP works. You already know what FICO is. So you have kind of a
Correct.
good technical expertise. The only thing which is kind of a missing piece in this puzzle is basically some kind of a management experience or some kind of a consulting advisory services which you can give to the management and tell them, look, if you are going to introduce this project, these are the technical things which you are already aware of, but these are the financial aspects of the project which you should also consider. So if you hire me, then I bring like a complete holistic angle to your business, and I would be in a better position to give you more recommendations. So that's how
Mhm.
this course of CMA has developed. It covers your finance, it covers your accounting, and then it covers your core costing and management decision-making skills. So overall, the course is something which is directly addressed to the top management. So when I say top management, it is directing to your finance managers, it is directing to your operation heads, it is directing to your delivery heads, it is directing to your CEOs or CFOs. So you would be in a better position, you would be technically sound and skillful to address those crucial business decisions. Whether do you want to set up a business or not? So when you set up a business, then you require your technical skills. But the first question would be that, is that feasible? So how to do a feasibility study, how to do a budgeting, how to do a forecasting of the things. Are you running out of the cash flows? Is your business liquid enough to generate profit? So all those kind of things is something which a CMA will help the management, because it is a certified management accountancy course. And that is something which everybody here is kind of a working professional, and they just want to go into that another level. And that's why they have joined this course. So
Actually, for me, the basic challenge is that Sundays we have office. So I am not able to regular because this time it wasn't a meeting time, so I could join for half an hour. But the regular office timing
okay,
is
so
that it's getting
what I can do is, let me just have a word with the coordinator, probably Shreya or Kalyani. Let me just have a word, if we can just figure out kind of a customized kind of a timing for you. If that works for you, you can give your time slots when you are available, and if you can figure out like a customized thing, I'll just have to check on that. That is something which Uplift is very open to, wherein they make sure that they give the comfort to the students whosoever is coming in, and they're pretty flexible on that point. Let's see if something can be worked upon. And then, of course, I mean, I'm pretty sure that this course has helped me. The people are there, they are into the course, they're finding it kind of a bit challenging initially, but then they're slowly trying to groom in into the course. So that's how it works. Just in case if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me directly through the coordinator, or you can just contact whosoever is in touch with you, either Kalyani or Shreya. And I'm open to any other separate call. If you want a separate discussion apart from this class, we are happy to do that.
Okay.
So thank you, Risha, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I also have some basic doubts. I'll contact Kalyani ma'am if it is possible to connect with you. I have some basic doubts on a few of the accounting entries, the initial accounting entries. So for those, I'll ask Kalyani ma'am if it is possible. I can.
If possible, if you want to stay right away in the class, that is also fine for me. If we can have a quick break session in an hour, so we can have a discussion there. If you want to join it separately, I'm also fine with that. If you want to
Because today, from 9 o'clock onwards, we have meetings. So it isn't.
okay, no worries. You can just catch up with Kalyani. Kalyani will probably schedule a quick call, and I'm happy to assist there.
Sure.
Okay, no
Thank you
worries.
so much.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on with the session which we discussed last time, we primarily discussed about the CVP analysis, guys. That is something which is important to your class, to your syllabus as well, covers a good portion. And the only kind of mastery to it is just to keep on solving the problems. Conceptual wise, it is less, it is concised, but then it's better that you keep on solving more and more questions onto it. So that is going to help you to make sure that the things which are you are studying in your CVP analysis, which is a cost, volume, and profit analysis, is going to help you in a much better way, and you would be in a better position to remember the formulas and all those kind of stuff. So even today, what we are going to do for the first half of the session, we'll try to solve some live questions right from the material. And then for the second half, we would move on to your ethical portion, wherein you study about professional ethics, kind of a theory part of it. But this theory part is also something which you can score upon. So there is a 10% weightage to it, 10 or 15% weightage to it, based upon whether you are doing FMAA or whether you are doing CMA. But the concepts are pretty simple. They're regular concepts which you use in your basic organizational skills, and can help you in making sure that you get those 10%. There could be some of the concepts coming here and there in your essay type questions. They would ask you about integrity. They would ask you about how is it ethical to follow this practice by the business. So there could be a touch of it everywhere, but just make sure that you get these two chapters thoroughly. So CVP, you have to make sure that you're right on top of it. And then professional ethics is something which you can easily score upon. So that's how you need to plan your study. So just make sure that you're keeping a track of it. Let me just share my screen and we can just quickly solve a few questions. We'll directly take it from the material itself. So this is an FMA. Let's try to get some kind of a okay, so let's go on to the test bank. We did solve a few questions on Friday regarding CVP. Let's try to solve more questions. It's just solving more questions. So 25% in your CMA and 15% your professional ethics. So that covers good amount of 40% of your sort of the passing percentage. So it's better you concentrate more on your decision making analysis, because that is something which is right at the top when it comes to your certified management accountancy course. So let's take a few questions. Okay. Okay. So this is the question which says that what you need to calculate is the break-even point in units. So that's kind of your requirement for this question. To calculate a break-even point, what you require is a fixed cost and a contribution ratio or contribution margin per unit. So either way you need. And because it says that you need to calculate the break-even point in units, you need the contribution margin per unit. So take 5 minutes of your time, try to gauge what the question is saying, try to find out what you can work around, and then we can discuss on how the question is going to work. So let me just read the question out for you guys. It says, a Bruel Electronic company is developing a new product, surge protectors for high voltage electrical flows. The following information relates to the project. The unit cost is given to you, which is a direct material, direct labor, and distribution cost. The company is also be absorbing 120,000 of additional fixed cost associated with this new product. A corporate fixed charge of 20,000 currently absorbed by other products will also be allocated to this new product. If the selling price is $14 per unit, the break-even point in units is how much? Take your calculators, take your copies. You know the formula. It's fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit. Question is, where do you get your fixed cost? The question is, where do you get your contribution margin per unit from? Put it into the formula, get an answer, we'll discuss it. Take 2 minutes of your time. Oh, anybody? Pooja, Shraddha, Richa? Richa, you want to give it a try? Just a casual try.
Sir, I
Sir,
get,
trying, sir.
Okay, give it a try. Even if
sir,
it is
I
in,
got,
yeah, tell me, go ahead.
sir, I got 23,333.33
Okay,
units.
but that's not an option here.
The same I'll
The
also.
round off, sir, we are like mentioned rounded to the nearest 100. So it could be 20,000 units.
So what is your answer? What is your exact answer?
23,333.33 units.
Yeah, even if you round it off to the nearest 100, it should be 23,300. But that is not there. So there is something which you're missing on.
Okay.
There's something which you're missing on. Ask yourself again, do you have the selling price? Do you have the variable cost? Do you have the contribution margin available? And do you have the fixed cost?
Sir, option C, 20,000.
Okay, and how did you calculate that?
They are given per unit cost.
Okay,
Selling price is 14.
okay,
Less variable cost is equal to contribution. Variable cost is 8, 3.25 plus 4 plus 0.75.
okay,
Then contribution margin is equal to contribution per unit divided by sales into 100, which is equal to 42.86%.
okay,
Then company will be absorbing 1,20,000 additional fixed cost. So for calculating BEP units, we calculate fixed cost divided by contribution margin rate. So one lakh
okay,
twenty thousand divided by 42.86%, which is our contribution margin ratio, is equal to 1 minute, which is 279,981, which is it is the break-even point sales in dollar. So we divided
okay.
by 14. So it's equal to 19,998, which is equal to approximately 20,000.
Okay, so you only took this 120,000,
Yeah.
but you didn't take this one.
If we take the 20,000 additionally, then it will go 23,000 something. That Pooja, I also got that.
Okay, so there has to be a logic. Just because it is not in the option, that is fine as of now. But then what if it comes in the option? If both the options are available, then what you do?
Sir, I'm taking the additional cost only because it is currently 1,20,000. Previously, um, it is 20,000. If the production increases, they are having additional fixed cost of 1,20,000. So we assume that it is considered under 1,20,000.
It says the company is also absorbing 120,000 of additional fixed cost associated with this new product. A corporate fixed charge of 20,000 currently absorbed by other products will be allocated to this new product. See, you are correct, but you have to make sure that you are framing it correctly. See, I understand where you're coming from, but the framing, I'll tell you why it is. There's a difference between absorbing and allocation. You said 20,000 is your answer. It is correct. It is correct. But the first answer which you guys gave, which was somewhere around 23,000, wherein you only you considered both of the costs, right? The 120 you considered plus the other 20 you considered, so you made it 140. Why it is not 140 is because it is not allocated. So there is a difference between allocation and absorption. So it says the fixed charge of 20,000 will be allocated to this product, that is a new product, that will be there irrespective of the fact that the product is produced or not. So that is already there. So you don't have to incur that cost again. The one which you are saying that it is something which you're not incurring again and again. That's the reason it is called as it is allocated and not absorbed. So what absorption means is you're putting the additional cost there. What does allocation means? It is already available and you're just distributing it now. So for example, the cost was distributed in the ratio of 1:2:3. Now you're just changing the ratio and distributing it equally. That is called as allocation, but your total cost will still remain the same. So what it means is producing or not producing has no difference on your total cost. This is just allocated. It is already included there. And then the formula is still the same, wherein you take your contribution, like the fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit. So it is exactly the way we are saying, but the difference is basically between absorption and allocation. So when you allocate, the total cost still remains the same. It is just a distribution of it. Yeah, just so now there are two products. So it says multi-frame company has the following revenue and cost for the two products it sells. So what is happening is you have information given about the costing structure and the budgeting structure for two products, that is plastic and glass frames. So budgeted unit sales are given sale price, material, labor, overheads, and then it says net income per unit. That means this fixed cost given to is also equal the current unit demand, and total fixed overhead for the year is budgeted to be 975. In numerical calculation, multi-frame rounds it to the nearest cent and units. That means it is just rounding it off. The total number of units needed to break even if sales were instead budgeted at 150,000 units for plastic frames and 300,000 for glass frames, in all other costs remaining constant, you need to find out the break-even sales. How many units? So now again, if you want to calculate a break-even point, we'll still go to the basics now. When you want to calculate a break-even point, what do you require? You require your fixed cost and you require contribution margin per unit. The question is, do you have those two figures available with you? So what we studied initially was that when there are two products, there is a different calculation for the break-even point. That is something which we studied. But as you can see, you only have a single option given to you. So how do you calculate it now? Calculate it for plastic frames, get a break-even point. Calculate for glass frames, get a break-even point. Then at least we can move ahead and just give it a try. What you require? You require your fixed cost. Do you have your fixed cost? I can see there is a fixed cost. Do you have your contribution margin? I can see that there is a contribution margin. The question is, which figures do you use? There is a budgeted sales. But then what you have to calculate is using the information given to you in the question. Take 5 minutes of your time. Give it a try. You know the concepts. You know the formula. You have the information. Give it a try. It's okay if it is incorrect. We'll discuss it. Anybody trying on this?
Yes, sir. Please give a time.
Yes. Take your time. Have any question, just speak it out. We can have a quick discussion on that as well. What is your fixed cost? Any answer, guys? Did you able to find the answer? Any random guesses you have? Any questions you want me to answer? What is your contribution margin per unit?
Sir, for plastic, 3.05, and for glass, 4.40.
Contribution margin.
Per
So
unit.
contribution for plastic is 5 and for glass frame is 7.
And how did you calculate it? 10 minus 2 minus 3.
Yes.
Okay. So that is okay. So you have got plastic and you have got glass frames. You have the contribution margin for it, which is 5 and 7. That's what you said. So you have one. So out of the formula, that is break-even point formula, you have the denominator now. The question is, where is the numerator coming from? So there are two products, plastic and glasses. You have got two contribution margins.
Sir, they are given fixed overhead per unit. So we have to multiply to budgeted unit sales for getting fixed cost.
Okay. And how much it comes?
For plastic frames, it is 195,000 and glass frames, it is 780,000. The total will be 975,000, which is given.
Which is given to interest. So you have the breakup as well now of the individual
Yeah.
fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is stopping you from calculating the break-even point? So you have the contribution margin per unit. You have the fixed cost. So what is the break-even? So just calculate the break-even point for plastic frames. Assuming that there is no glasses involved into it, just give me an answer for plastic frames. Assuming that there is no other product, there is only one single product, which is plastic frames. So what would be your answer? No? Just give it a try, guys. You have to make sure that you are trying the questions.
Sir, break-even sales unit is equal to 39,000 for plastic frames.
39,000 for plastic frames. You have a fixed cost, you divide by contribution margin per unit, you get an answer.
Yes.
What is for the, how much is for the glasses?
For glasses, it is 111,421.
111,421. Now can you just add those two figures?
150,421.
150,421.
Yes.
That means your answer is near to this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you consider this part as well?
No, sir, it is little bit confusing for me.
It is little bit confusing. Okay. So for example, let's assume that this is not given to you in the question. Let's assume that this is not given there. Okay. So what happens is how, see, that's what my point is, how the difficulty level, the question is going to increase you for you when you are moving into your later part of the exam would be the same one. So it will give you some similar questions which we discussed before, wherein there would be a few products and we need to calculate the break-even point. Probably in that part, it would be only related with your single product. So now when you're at your end of the examination, wherein only 45 minutes are left, 35 minutes are left, he's going to throw you these questions which have multiple products. And there is a budget, there is an actual, there is a total overhead, absorption fixed cost, allocated fixed cost. And that's why you have to be very sure on what things you require for your information. The first thing what you do when you have these type of questions is you just make sure what is asked. You're asked a break-even point, fine. How do you calculate it? Fixed cost, contribution margin. Just make sure you find those figures first. And then you move on to the advanced concept, whether there is a single product or a multiple product. We'll check it out. Your answer was correct. I mean, if you told me that your D was correct, but it was not the logical kind of an explanation which you gave. So what I mean by that is just combining those two figures is not going to help you with when it comes to your break-even point. When there is a multiple product which is given to you, what you need is a sales proportion or a sales mix. So for a single product, the way you calculate it is okay. That's fine. But then when there are multiple products, what you need is a sales mix. So the first thing what you need to do, once you have the formula in place, you'll have to make sure what you require is a mix, that is the proportion. So what is the proportion? It is 1:3 right here. But that is something which we don't require. We require as per the new frame. That's why when you calculate it for the first time, it would be 150,000 divided by the total. The total is 450,000. You can take your calculator, you can punch in 150,000, then you divide it by the total of these units. That gives you 450,000. And that basically becomes 1/3 or 0.33%. What it means is that for the plastic frames, it is 1/3. So for plastic frames, it is 1/3. And 2/3 is for your glasses. So what you will have to do, you'll have to make sure that what you calculate is a sales mix. So just remember one thing, whenever there is a multiple product and a break-even point, what you require is a sales mix. So a BEP point is something which you already know. So a BEP point is something which you already know, which is your fixed cost divided by contribution, either per unit or the ratio. But then that is something which you can calculate when there is a single product. This is applicable for single product. But if there is a multiple product, then what you require apart from BEP, you need the BEP formula and the sales mix. This sales mix would either be given to you in the question, or you have to make sure you calculate it. In this question, the sales mix, there are two sales mix. The first one is the one by default. So if this information was not given to me, the new kind of a budgeted 150 and 300,000, I would have only considered the above sales mix, or my answer would be different in that case. So there is so if you want to calculate a break-even point based on the new mix they have, first thing which you calculate is the mix. The first one is your plastic frames, the other one is your glass frames. What is the sales mix? So this is 150,000, that is the units, budgeted units, the new units which the question is requiring you to answer. And for the glass frame, it is still 300, that is 300,000. That gives you a total units of 450. What is your mix? Your mix is equal to 150 divided by 450, and then 300 divided by 450. So that is your mix. So that is your first thing. The second thing is you require a contribution margin. What is your contribution margin? If you want to calculate a contribution margin for frames, you said it was 5, that was correct. And it was 7 for the glasses. So your contribution margin comes to 5 units, $5 per unit, $7 per unit. So you're done with the contribution margin. The next thing is what you require is your total fixed cost. But because you have to calculate a combined break-even point, there is a requirement for calculation of combined break-even point, and that's why what you need is you need one fixed cost and one contribution margin. One fixed cost and one contribution margin. So how do you calculate it now? So it's 1/3 and 2/3, or 1:2. This is 1:2, right? This can be written as 1:2 as well. 1/3 or 2/3. That's what it says. Because 1/3 and 2/3 weight introduces rounding differences, the best approach is to imagine the baskets of 3 products and 1:2, and the overall the ratio still remains the same. Therefore, the contribution margin per basket containing 1 plastic frame and 2 plastic glasses would be. So instead of putting it as a mix, what you can do is because you have a ratio in place, you can still use it because there would be rounding differences coming in now. So what they did was this $5 contribution margin multiplied by 1, and this 2 multiplied by 7, your ratio is still the same. That basically is going to come as 19. That is your combined contribution margin per unit based on the weights you have. 975,000 is your fixed cost, 19 is your contribution margin. This division is going to give you 51,316. And this is the total basket. And it is for 1 unit. You multiply it by 3 to get the overall kind of a full margin or the units which you need. So whenever there's a sales mix which is coming into play, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have a proportion defined initially. And once you have the proportion, you can calculate the total break-even point. This was question number 12. Let's move on to another one. It's kind of a similar question. But now if you see, it maintains the same sales mix ratio. So in that case, you only have to use this similar sales mix. That's it. Here, let me just take a look. After any few changes right here. Okay, so we'll solve this question and we will move on to the next part. It says Robert Johnson is a manager of Sleepwell Incorporations, one of the chain of models located throughout the US. An example of operating cost at Sleepwell that is both direct and fixed is a cost which is direct, that is directly associated with the company, and which is also fixed. So what do you mean by a direct cost? Direct cost is a cost which is directly associated to the product. And what is fixed? That it doesn't change when the relevance ranges change. So the first one is advertising for Sleepwell in chain. That is an advertising cost. Now think whether it is a direct cost and a fixed cost. Toilet tissue. Is it direct cost or is it a fixed cost? Johnson's salary, whether it is a direct cost associated with the product or it is a fixed cost or both. What you want is a both. And water cost.
Option
Sir,
C.
C.
Which one? C?
C.
Yes,
Yes.
sir, C option.
Okay. So Jonathan's salary would be fixed. So that I am agreeing on. How it is direct? Why it is direct cost?
Sir, because
Yeah, go ahead.
sir, directly associated with the operation of the motel, that's why it is direct cost also.
Okay. What about the water cost?
Sir, it is changed
Wha-
if the units are increases
So
or
more you use, the more it becomes.
yes, yes.
So it is not fixed, it is variable. So this is out of question. What about advertising cost? Or for that matter, what about the toilet tissue cost? The more you use it, the more you require it. So that is somehow it becomes variable. So again, I believe the B is also out of question. The only thing which you need to understand is one A and C. And you said that the answer is C. Let's check that out. So why it is saying that is because the one which you said that it is directly associated with your operations, or he's a direct manager reporting to it, and it's a salary which he's getting, which is a fixed cost. The advertising cost is not a direct cost because what you do is you're making a general advertisement. It's not a specific kind of a related to a product unless it is very specifically mentioned to you. And can you trace the toilet tissue cost? How much rolls did you use in toilet? You cannot trace it. Something which is traceable directly is your direct cost. Something which is not traceable is your indirect cost. And something which changes when the production increases or decreases when the production decreases is your variable cost. Something which remains constant is your fixed cost. Okay, let's move on to another one. Which of the following is a characteristics of a contribution income statement That is, what do you mean by contribution income statement? Is the same statement which you have been preparing. This is called as a contribution statement, wherein sale minus variable cost, it gives you contribution, you minus the fixed cost, you get the profit. That's a small contribution statement. So it says, what is the characteristics? Fixed and variable manufacturing costs are combined as one line item, but fixed operating expenses are shown separately from the variable operating expenses. Remember the statement. Remember this. Is there a difference? How do you show it? It's fixed cost. It's fixed cost. It doesn't matter whether it is manufacturing, whether it is administrative fixed cost, any cost. If it is fixed, it will come into this head. That's it. There is no distinction in marginal costing. So if it is variable, it goes into the variable head. If it is fixed, it goes into the fixed head. That's it. This is the small statement you have. Fixed expenses are listed separately from variable expenses. Okay, to a certain extent, it is correct. Again, it says fixed and variable operating expenses are combined as one line item. So that's the same statement. But fixed manufacturing, and this was fixed operating expenses in the first option. This is fixed manufacturing expenses, are shown separately as variable manufacturing expenses. This was variable operating expense. It's kind of a same thing, but it is telling you to segregate the things around. And it says fixed and variable expenses are combined in one line. So you're not combining it in one line. That's for sure. The question is, are you putting manufacturing expenses separately and distinguishing between variable operating expenses and variable manufacturing expenses? Are you doing that? The answer is yes or no. So what do you think is an option here? Because in an income statement in contribution margin, it should not be separated based on whether it is operating or manufacturing. If it is variable, it goes into the variable category. If it is fixed, it goes into the fixed category. So this should be the answer. What do you think? Or this should be the answer.
Option B.
Okay. It only separates out the fixed and variable cost. That is the only necessary analysis which we require. If somebody is going to tell you that in CVP analysis, what we do is we categorize manufacturing cost differently, we categorize operating cost differently, we categorize marketing cost, we categorize administrative cost. No, we only categorized the costs based on whether it is fixed or variable. Doesn't matter whether it is manufacturing or admin, overheads, whatever cost it is, doesn't matter. Probably this one is something which you. Okay, so this is your question, and then we move on to the ethics. KJR Corporation has the following partial contribution income statement at a sales volume of 900,000 units. For a single product, sales revenue is 81, variable cost is 56.7, contribution margin is 24.3. And KJR's controller has calculated that the company's break-even point is 750,000 units. What is the fixed cost? So it's kind of a reverse question wherein you usually require a break-even point, but you require now a fixed cost. Give it a try, you should be able to do it. What's the answer, guys? It should be simple. It should be simple. Do you have the contribution margin per unit? Yes. Do you have the break-even point in unit? Yes. So out of the three things which you require for a break-even point, that is break-even point is equal to fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit, you have it. Just
Option A.
take your calculator. It's option A. How did you calculate it?
We need to calculate contribution margin per unit.
And what
24,300,000 divided by 900,000 units, which is equal to 27.
is equal to 27. Okay.
Then to calculate fixed cost, we need to use break-even point sales is equal to fixed cost divided by contribution margin. So
Okay.
7,50,000 units into 27 is equal to 20 million to 50,000.
Perfect. That should be the answer. That is the answer. Yeah. Last one. Quickly. A company uses a cost volume profit analysis to evaluate a new product. The total cost of production per year the total fixed cost of the production per year is 160,000. The unit variable cost is 50. Which of the following combination of unit selling price and the break-even point sold in a year is correct? So which combination is correct? You can solve it quickly. Should not take much time. So if your selling price is 25 and your variable cost is 50, you're already at loss. Sales minus variable cost is already negative. $70 minus $50, that is $20 positive contribution margin. Then 8,000 multiplied by 20, which gives you 160,000. So you know at break-even point, fixed cost is equal to contribution margin, and that should be your answer. What do you guys think? Do it for the
Yes,
other
sir.
one.
Option B, sir.
Do it for the one as well. So 100 minus 50, 100 minus 50 will give you 50. That is your contribution margin.
Break-even units are 3,200 for
Exactly.
option C.
So you said the B one, right?
Yeah, and for
Yes,
option
sir. B,
D, the
sir.
contribution is 0.
Exactly. So you can just quickly make sure that you have your calculators in place. You should be having so they just quickly calculated it, and so you don't even have to calculate for the first one because it says 50 minus 2, so it would be 25 minus 50. It's already negative. You can just leave it out. You don't even have to go further into that option. So this was with respect to your contribution margin and decision making analysis for your pre-CMA and kind of an FMAA portion. Nothing to go deep. You would be going deep into your regular classes. So just try to solve more questions. Just solve more questions. Just solve 5 questions a day. You should be fine. Then what we are going to do is there is also another chapter. If you could see this kind of your pre-CMA part, decision making covers 25%, professional ethics covers 15%. That makes 40% of your coverage. And then you have got 2020 with here, which makes 40. So your 80% is basically covered in your section A, B, C, and F. A, B, C, and F. So make sure that you're pretty thorough with all this 279, 487, 334, 68, and all these questions which you have. In your professional ethics, it is some kind of a theory. People will get bored sometimes, wherein they have to make sure that there are a lot of things, a lot of concepts coming in. It's pretty simple, to be very fair. And we have a kind of a 52 slides sort of a presentation or concepts onto this. This for the FMAA, which says 10% of the exam. It would be 15% for your CMA. You would have a detailed discussion on it in your regular classes. But then what you can do now is you can just keep your ears open and just listen to the things. It is very important how they frame the question. Is I'll tell you how it is done. If I want to tell you an essay topic, how it looks like. So there is something called IMA code of ethics, and you have to make sure that you are following those code of ethics properly. So if you see this, there is this question which is given to you in your essay type question. It has some calculations and all. But then what they do is, despite giving you the calculation, they'll either tell you to calculate a few figures, like they'll tell you to calculate like contribution margin, break-even point, fixed cost, and whatever, all those things. And then suddenly what they'll do is they'll emerge an ethical question with your numerical question. That's how you have to make sure that you keep on putting your IMA ethical codes in your answers. Before moving on to what are the IMA ethical codes, and so there are only six or seven codes. You have to just remember the headings and the name of it. That's it. I mean, there is nothing to go deep into it. But then that is something which is expected from you in the examination. So when it comes to ethics, so what do you mean by ethics, first of all? So Pooja, are you ethical? Do you do ethical practices? Yes, no?
Mm.
So what is ethics, basically? What do you understand by ethics? Anybody, Hemant? No, not ethical. So when I say that I take a bribe, that means the practice which I am doing is unethical, because these are not the moral principles which drives a behavior. So ideally what should happen is you go to get some documents. This usually happens in probably in your area, in your government organizations and whatever it is. Nothing to be specific about. But usually when you go there, there has to be a bribe which you need to give. So that practice is an unethical practice. The question is why it is unethical? Because it doesn't set up your moral principles and values. So so if the behavior is as per the moral standards, it is going to give you a sense of satisfaction. And what is going to happen is, once you behave ethically, you always do the right things. So what is right? Question should be, what is right? Is giving the bribe a good idea? The answer is no. So that's why it is unethical. Something which is correct is ethical. Something which is incorrect is unethical. So what are business ethics? So business ethics are basically the principles, values, and morals. So moral principles, moral values, which a business is going to follow. So if you go to if you go to TCS for example, they basically work on a lot of ethical practices. So for example, if they have committed a practice to the client which they believe is their core value, and if you divert from that value, for example, I remember that there was one incident in my organization wherein one of the managers, what he did was he got a file he got an Excel file from the server. Okay, it had the client's data and all into it. But unfortunately, because it was a transition process which we were doing, the relevant software was not installed. The Excel basically was not installed into the system. So the file got downloaded and it was not recognized by the system because of course there was no Excel into the system. So what he did was he tried to convert that file into a recognizable format by uploading it file to the third-party website. So he downloaded the file from the client server. He wanted to process that file, but unfortunately, as there was no Excel, there was no software. What he did was he used these uploading tools which you get, like the converters. You see these converters, like CRV converters, CRV to Excel converters, and all you get online. So he used those converters and he uploaded the data. He downloaded the data again after the conversion in the recognizable format, and then he started working on it. He did the work, he did the reports, everything he did, like pretty nicely. Everything was delivered on time. But what happened was, as soon as that file got uploaded into the server through a third-party website, there was an IT trigger that there is some kind of a suspicious website is being accessed, and there has been some uploading done. So immediately what happened, that there was an incident raised in the company. So as soon as the incident was raised, it was investigated by the IT team of the client, and they found out that okay, this was the user ID, this was the manager who basically did the uploading, and they started questioning him as to why did you do it and all those kind of things. They asked him, and he was detained. So what do you mean by detained is where he went in under 3 days of suspension, because it's kind of a privacy issue. It's kind of an ethical issue wherein company doesn't want the client's data to be reflected into the third-party website. So what they did was, after 3 days, the IT team of the client, they completed their investigation. So the main motive of the investigation was to make sure that there was no data leak. Only file was uploaded and it was just downloaded. It was an error, and they wanted to check whether there was a data leak. So data leak was not traced out. So it was not there. So they gave their report to the TCS that this was the incident which happened and there was no data leak. So it is good to close the incident now. There is no data or financial loss. But because TCS is an ethical company and they have committed that we would not tolerate any kind of such incidences with respect to privacy of the data or any kind of a forgery of the data, although he got a clearance from the client that there was no data loss, TCS made sure that because it was an unethical practice which was followed by the manager, he was shifted to another project. Basically, he was put on bench, stating that the principles, the core values, or the company's code of conduct with respect to data organization was not followed, and that's why you'll have to make sure that you move on to a bench and then you move on to another project. So that's a strict thing which the company followed. Every company will have their code of conduct. So what do you mean by code of conduct is how do you behave in a company? After becoming a CMA, there would be a code of conduct which applies to you as well, wherein you have to make sure that how do you dress up, how do you behave, how do you speak, how do you represent yourself is something which is already written in your code of conducts. So you are expected to wear a formal dress. You are expected to have your formal shoes. You're expected to have a coat. You're expected to have a tie. For the girls, it should be the professional dress they have, the formal dress. It should be there. There's a code of conduct how to tie your hairs for the girls. What kind of a hairstyle you can use. So there is a lot of detailed code of conducts which is a part of your business ethics. And it is something which is a cultural thing. So for example, I'll give you an example of code of conduct or a behavior which a company follows. So a company like Deloitte, I guess Richa was here. I'm not sure if she's here right now, but she might be aware of this, but she's not here. So in Deloitte, what they do is they have a corporate disconnect. So every 1 month, in the end of the year, that is somewhere around November and December, they give you one year of, sorry, 1 month of a paid holiday, wherein you can just go and enjoy the things. It's a company disconnect wherein you're not allowed to work, basically. You can just, it's kind of an annual leave which they give you. That's a code of conduct which the company is following. There is a dress code. There are login timings. There are exit timings. There are companies in Pune. There are companies in Nagpur. There are companies in Bangalore, Hyderabad. For after like 11 o'clock, they don't allow girls to go alone. It has to be accompanied by one of the security personals. So I had this in TCS, wherein after 11 o'clock, so as soon as the clock ticks and 11 is captured, 11:01, if a girl is moving out, she's not allowed to do it unless she is accompanied by a security personnel. You also have the cabs. The company provides you a transport. So again, in that case also, the girls won't have the last stop. The last stop has to be taken by a male. So for example, if a girl lives too far away and the boy is living nearby, and because they are only two persons in the cab, the priority would be given to the girl, and the girl would be dropped first, and then the boy would be dropped again. So that's how the code of conduct, the code of practices the companies are following. Unethical behavior is something which you encourage, but that encouragement is basically out of the organization. Just the business kind of thing. We're talking about the business. What we want is people to be ethical, people to be honest, people to have a lot of integrity. When you say integrity, is you need to be honest to your work, you need to be honest to your profession, you need to be honest with respect to your deliverables. So sometimes what happens, okay, let me just give you an example, and I want kind of an input from you guys. Let's assume that there is a company in the UAE. Okay, there is a company in the UAE called say ABC Limited. Okay, and it has almost 200,000 employees which are working under them. Okay, and they're running losses now. They're into losses now. So what they're doing is they're shifting the process, they're shifting the business from the UAE to India, because for India there is a low cost structure. They're trying to shift it. But because of this shifting, they have to lay off, say, 500,000 employees or 50,000 employees in the UAE. So now you tell me, and they're generating jobs in India as well, because they would be shifting their business, they would be hiring a few employees there. So what do you think? Is the company making an ethical decision? Is it good to lay off the employees? Is it good to run losses? Is it good to make a new employment elsewhere? So how do you judge it now? Pooja or Hemant? Or Shraddha? Or Himanshu? How do you judge that? So you have a company in the UAE. There are so many employees who are dependent on your company. You're laying them off because you're running in losses. You're going into India. You're creating new jobs there. But there are existing people who are losing their jobs. So how do you make sure that this is ethical or unethical? How do you judge that? Anyone? No. All are unethical students.
Sir, it is not ethical.
It is not ethical because they are laying off people in the UAE,
Yeah.
but they're giving jobs to the people in India. You got the dilemma, right? You got the dilemma.
Yes.
So it could be ethical at one point, it could be unethical at other. So there has to be a kind of an ethical decision making, wherein the ethical decision making works following a top-down approach, wherein you have to decide what is your preference. If your preference is laying off the employees, then okay, it is unethical. If your business, if your purpose, if your aim is to make sure that your business has to survive, then probably these decisions could be ethical. So it's kind of a very tight tug of war between what you define as ethics and what you don't define as ethics. What is an ethical decision? Then there are other few values of fairness, integrity, due diligence, and a fiduciary responsibility. So what do you mean by fairness? Is something you have to be fair with everyone. You cannot give preferences. There should not be any nepotism. What is integrity? Integrity is something wherein you be honest. You make sure that you're honest to the work, you're honest to the company, you're honest to yourself. Honesty. What is due diligence? Due diligence means that when you get an assignment, when you're working on something, you make sure that you have followed all the protocols. If you get an invoice to do an accounting, you make sure that invoice is in proper format. It has a proper amount, it has a proper authorization, and then only you record that invoice. That's what it says. Fairness is equality, reciprocity, and optimization, being equitable and honest, impartial. What is integrity? Is honest.
Sir,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
sorry for that. Uh, you asking the previous question. The employer can leave UAE and come into India to provide the employment for the Indian people.
Yes,
To
yes,
close down the business because of losses. It
yes.
is not the one day decision. The employer can give the 6 months before 6 months or 2 3 months notice period for the employees, and they can find out the other opportunity. And to the close down the business, there is proper procedure. It takes time.
Exactly. Exactly.
So he can following that, and after 2 3 months period he can uh, left from the UAE and join India. For that time the employees who are in the UAE, they can find their own way. It
Exactly.
is possible.
It is possible. Exactly. It is that is the way it should have been happening. So when you have to decide whether I am doing it ethically or not, how do you convince yourself to take a decision now? Because you have to follow a certain procedure. You cannot just keep on come tomorrow and tell me that okay, you have been laid off. Although there are companies who do that. Tomorrow you go to the company will be like, no, we don't require your services now, so it's uh better you leave, or you just type your resignation, we'll accept it and we'll give you a full and final settlement within like 5 years, 5 days or 7 days, you can find a job. But because you have to follow the labor law, you have to follow a complete process, yes. But following the complete process by making sure that you give them a notice period, give them some time, make sure that you take them into confidence, explain them the situation. So there's a lot of difference between I am telling someone that okay, tomorrow we don't require your services. But there's a difference when I tell the other people or tell my employees that look, this is the situation of the business. We're running into losses. Although we want to continue in the UAE, we cannot do it because of the operational reasons. We have a plan. We give you an option. So what you can do is you can give an option to the people. Look, what we can do the best for you is, if possible, there are multiple Indians in the UAE working for us. can those Indian people go back to India? We can give them the salary in Indian rupees. That's how we make sure that we don't fire them. We can give them that option. They can go to the India and work for us. Or else, if they don't want to have this option, we give them a notice period of 60 days, 35 days, whatever is the relevant notice period, and allow them to search for new jobs. The only convenience which we can give them is, if they want to take a leave in the notice period, it is usually deductible, but what we'll do is we'll not take that. So that's how you build a culture. So although your business is down, you still follow a complete process, as you said. That's the difference between an ethical and a non-ethical business practice, basically. So to sum up it in Hindi, like I'll tell you how it is. So अगर आपको किसी को निकालना है, तो आप निकालने के पहले, the way you tell him that you are going to be removed from the organization because of XYZ reasons, वो ही आपका ethical point रहेगा. That is the point which will define how ethical you are. अगर आपने उसको एक झटके में निकाल दिया, तो it basically is going to show you that your company is very unethical. But wherein you take him into confidence, you explain him the situation, you give him the outputs, you take his inputs. That's how you build up a good culture. So that's correct. So what we can do is we can quickly take a 5 minutes break. And then we can just quickly complete off this integrity and other concepts. This is a 5 minutes break and we'll finish up it within 15 minutes. Or you want me to continue right away? You want a break? Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break. Yeah,
Yes,
tell me.
sir.
Want a break? Yeah, let's take a 5 minute break.
Yes, sir.
And we'll just continue it within next 15-20 minutes and we'll wrap it up. Okay, guys. So let's resume. So when it comes to fairness, or when it comes to value of decision making, values of ethical decision making, there are multiple kind of small concepts which we must understand. And these concepts are fairness, integrity, due diligence, and the fiduciary responsibility. So fairness is something wherein you have to be dishonest. Oh, sorry, you have to be honest. You have to make sure that you're not giving injustice. You're not biased. There is no nepotism. You have to be extremely equitable. You have to be impartial. Make sure that everything is optimized. So you have to be fair in every term. So there is no undue advantage which you give to other people. What is integrity? Integrity is honesty, wherein you have to be extremely honest with respect to your profession, with respect to your work, uh, with respect to your actions. And integrity is one of the most important principles when it comes to the values. What is conflict of interest? Conflict of interest is again something wherein a decision maker does not take a decision based on his independent judgment. His judgment would be dependent on someone, or it would be some kind of a favorable thing which he is doing because he has got a personal interest into it. So the appearance of having a conflict of interest can be as harmful to a decision as to a real conflict. So even if you have a feeling that there could be a conflict of interest, you have to make sure that you disclose it. So when you become a director in a company, when you become go at a higher position, like as a management position, you have to make sure that you disclose what investments or what kind of shareholding you have in the companies. So why do you do that? It's because, let's say, for example, I am the director in Reliance, and I'm also a director in, say, a TCS. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that whatever contracts the company is getting is rolled between TCS and Reliance, because I have my interest in both of the companies. So whenever there is a deal with TCS which is happening, or for that matter with Reliance that is happening, I'll be very much intact. I would be very much specific. I would be very much indulged into making sure that the deal cracks out. But for example, if the deal is with Infosys, then I would be not that much reluctant. I will try to make sure that the deal cancels with Infosys and has a deal with TCS, because I have got my personal kind of a conflict of interest there. So that is something which you have to make sure that you avoid. So there is avoidance, there is disclosure, and then there is managing. So how do you avoid? Is by telling the people that, okay, look, you're cracking a deal with TCS. I have my conflict of interest. I have my personal interest in TCS. So I won't be the part of this deal. So I won't be involved in any of the transactions. Then that's how you avoid. There are a few things wherein you are required to disclose. Wherein what you do is there is a disclosure requirement. There is a disclosure requirement. There is a disclosure requirement there, wherein when you have a meeting, you have to make sure that you disclose that this is the company wherein I have a specific interest. If the company is dealing with these companies, I would not be in a position to take an independent decision. And then you manage. So for example, if you still want to be in a decision-making mode, you have to make sure that you are not, you don't hold the shares. If you're holding the shares, you sell it out, you be in a neutral position, and that sort of a thing. So it says a purchasing manager who has an authority to make purchases has a responsibility to exercise judgment and purchases not only to the lowest priced item, but the item that is acceptable for quality and for the best value of the price. So that is a responsibility of your purchase manager. One of the bidders for an upcoming purchase is the purchasing manager's brother-in-law. So this is kind of a related party. Because of the purchasing manager's family relationship with brother-in-law, the purchasing manager has a conflict of interest. Even if the best value of the price is acceptable with quality is offered by the purchasing manager's brother-in-law, the purchasing manager should rescue himself or herself from making the decision process. So he should not be involved in the decision making process now, because the family member of his is involved into decision making or into his kind of a conflict of interest. So that's how you disclose, you avoid, and you manage. So what do you mean by due diligence? So due diligence means taking care of. So you take care of the things as if they are applicable to you. So due diligence literally means taking a required efforts, and it means taking care for the things which you do. Be diligent, be active. Then situations which are requiring due diligence every situation basically requires a due diligence, wherein some examples are business combinations, wherein there are a few business combinations which you make. If you're appointing a supplier, make sure that you have done a good background check for him. You don't want any suppliers to come in and a default, or who already have a kind of a very big liability on themselves, or an unreputed supplier who don't want to get into touch with. If you're giving a loan to someone, make sure that you do a due diligence wherein you check the background, make sure that the person has a capacity to repay the loan. So all these kind of things, when you do a background check, when you do a basic checks on the thing, is called as due diligence. Then there is something called as fiduciary responsibility, which means a fiduciary responsibility or a fiduciary responsible person can manage them for the benefit of any other entity. So what means that the assets which you use for the company, assume that these are your own assets, and the way you use it should be the nature of use for the company's assets as well. So it's something wherein you own the things. So fiduciary is responsible for acting in the best interest of those other entities, called as principal and beneficiaries. So this happens between your agent, when you appoint a broker or something, when there is an agent, so agent is expected to have a fiduciary responsibility for you, wherein a fiduciary responsibility means that the agent will take those decisions on behalf of you, assuming that he himself is doing a transaction. And then there are a few requirements of exercising the fiduciary care. So for example, although professional accountants employed by the organizations or audit firm have no statutory or contractual duty to the shareholders or the public, they must exercise honesty, integrity, objectivity, and due care, because they have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that the client is performing at its peak capacity. So what is business fraud? So business fraud is something which is kind of an intentional thing. People try to manipulate, that means change. People try to conceal, that means steal, or take some unadvantageous gains from the company, which means that ultimately what is happening, instead of benefiting the company, the person is benefiting himself. It could be carried out by one person, it could be carried out by multiple people. Who commits fraud? Usually fraud can be committed by anyone. It could be employees, managers at all levels, top management, CEO, and any person in the organization can basically commit a fraud if he has an opportunity to create a fraud or conduct a fraud. So I'll give you one example here. There was a case. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that. There was a case of Satyam Computers. So if you are pretty enthusiastic about this business frauds which are happening, there was one of the frauds which was conducted by the Indian company called as Satyam Computers. Ramalinga Raju was one of their one of the CEOs of the company, and he wrote a letter to SEBI, that is the Securities Exchange Board of India, stating that this is the letter. I'll just show you it in brief, and that's the fraud he committed. That's what it says. Satyam's letter from Mr. Ramalinga Raju to its board of directors admitting the fraud. So I'll just read the first page out. So it says, let me just zoom in a bit. Yeah. So it says, to the board of directors, Satyam Computer Services, from Ramalinga Raju, chairman of Satyam Computers, 7th of Jan 2009. Sorry. Just kidding. Yeah. It says, it is with deep regret and a tremendous burden that I am carrying on my conscience that I would like to bring the following facts to your notice. The balance sheet carries as on September 30th, 2008. That means he's talking about the balance sheet position, which says it has inflated non-existent cash and bank balances of 5040 crores against 5361 crores reflected in the books. That means his book says that 5361 is the value of banking and cash balances, but effectively out of this 5040 is non-existent. That means it is a fake balance which is shown in the books. Almost 100% of the cash balance is fake. He says that there is an accrued interest of 376 which is non-existent. That means there is no accrued interest which he needs to receive. 376 crore, that is something which is a fake entry he has put it in the system. Then it says that there is an understated liability of 1230 crores on account of the funds arranged by me. Understated liability. That means he has not disclosed that liability to the company. And then there is an overstated debtors position. So your debtors are overstated by 490 crores. So these are the very alarming figures. So that's what the point is. The frauds can be committed by anyone. So this is the chairman. The more authority you have, there is a higher chance of you committing the fraud. You're open to fraud. That's why there are a lot of restrictions. There are a lot of disclosures which you need to make. So types of business fraud. Asset misappropriation. So what you do is you misappropriate the assets. So what Satyam did was basically he misappropriated the assets. You know, the cash and the bank balances are your assets, and you are now misappropriating them. That means you are misrecording it. You're not recording it properly. Manipulation of financial statements. Again, he manipulated the financial statements. He understated the liability. He did some fake entries into the system. Marketing fraud. What do you mean by marketing fraud? You market something wherein that is not required. That is something which is you're not going to deliver. So you're telling the people that, okay, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll provide you this benefit, we'll provide you that benefit, X, Y, Z, whatever you commit, but you don't deliver. This usually happens in your washing powder ads. So if you see Tide, or for that matter, Ariel, They say that this is like a stain removal kind of a thing, and everybody knows that that advertising is something which doesn't happen that way. I mean, what they do is they tell you to put coffee, they tell you to put sauce and all other dirty items on a white sheet, and then they use Tide, Ariel, all those Vim Bar and what you call all those products, and then they tell you that look, it was very dirty and now it is very it's back to its original color. And I am pretty sure that everybody has tried it, and it doesn't work the same way. The same goes with consumer fraud, wherein you commit a consumer, you don't deliver it on time. Financial misconduct is again an example of Satyam. There's a financial misconduct wherein you're not recording the things properly. Intellectual property infringement is something you already have a patent registered and you're still using it, you're generating profits, you're basically using a different name. So for example, if Hawk is a registered material provider, and if I am using Hawk as kind of a revenue generating item for me, the Hawk will sue me for intellectual property infringement. We have got corruption, wherein you pay the bribe, you pay extra money, you pay some extra goods, extra services, extra luxurious things to make sure that your work is done, your deal is done. So what you do is you put a benefit and you associate it with a value. So there was a work which was not happening. You pay the person a high paying watch or an expensive watch, and then what happens is he basically does your work. So that is something which comes under corruption. You benefit someone financially or non-financially to obtain an advantage. What is espionage? Espionage is something wherein you obtain your political information to a certain extent. And it's basically kind of a military associated term wherein you share your sensitive information to other people. It's kind of an insider trading. So what is asset misappropriation? There could be cash theft, inventory theft or misuse, accounts receivable fraud, vendor fraud. We have already discussed that. There's not too much to go in detail. Corruption includes illegal gratuities, bribes, kickbacks, conflict of interest. So for your examinations, what I'm going to do is I have a small notes on your internal controls and ethics. So let me just check if I have to share that with you. There would be this IMA code of conducts, which might be relevant for you in your examinations. It would be, you need to make sure that you quote the data every time. You quote the number. And what happens is the moment you quote these IMA code of conducts or IMA code of ethics in your paper, it would tell the examiner that, okay, this person has already studied with respect to ethics. He has already gone through the ethics. He's already aware of what is happening in ethics. So it gives you a better edge with respect to other people. So if you see, there are 6 or 7 ethics. There are 4 ethics you have. Basically, you can just remember it. It's something which you have already discussed. There are 4 principles and there are 4 standards. So just make sure that you write it somewhere down. It would come into it could come into an MCQ question. So honesty, fairness, objectivity, and responsibility. Honesty is something wherein you are integrity, you are honest. Fairness is something where you are impartial. Objectivity means you search the things in such a way that you have logics for every questions. Responsibility is something wherein you own the task. There are 4 standards: competence, confidentiality, integrity, and credibility. So competence means you're competent enough to take a decision. Confidentiality means you're not disclosing the sensitive information of the clients. Integrity and credibility is something wherein you pass on the credit, not the blame. So you can just read the things out. Nothing to be worried, but just remember the names, whatever are mentioned with respect to standards. And then there is a okay. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you remember all these 8 line items. So honesty. So just remember it that way. HFOR. So you can just abbreviate it that way. So HFOR. H for, that is H for. That's how I remember it. And then this would be C3I. 3 C's for competency. 3 C's, that is confidentiality, competence, and credibility. And integrity is kind of a common thing. In standard, they call it integrity. In principles, they call it honesty. It's the same thing technically, but then they have a different word. Just make sure you're using the word correctly. So what if I tell you what are the principles and what are the standards? The principles would be HFOR. That means honesty, or fairness, objectivity, and responsibility. And the standards would be C, and C, that is confidentiality, competence, and credibility. And I would be for integrity. So it's C3I. So it's HFOR and C3I. Just remember it that way. So what do you mean by fraud triangle? So fraud triangle is something wherein there are 3 kind of conditions to it. First is motivation, opportunity, and rationalization. So I call it ROM. ROM, ROM. You have RAM in the computer, so this is ROM. So ROM means rationalization. For rationalization, what you mean by that is when you're committing a fraud, you keep telling yourself that you're doing a correct thing. That's what the fraud people do. So they are not hesitant enough. They're not feeling guilty on the things. So they will keep on telling themselves that whatever they're doing is correct. And what they want is an opportunity now. So whenever they see an opportunity, they'll try to commit it. And then there is a motivation. Sometimes it's kind of a pressure of delivering the things, but it is more of a motivation. So it is MOR or ROM. ROM. Rationalization, optimization, or like an opportunity and motivation. If you don't have any of a single element, then it would be difficult for a person to commit a fraud. So you miss any of the elements, you basically what you're doing is you're reducing the fraud. How do you prevent the fraud? So to prevent the fraud, you have to make sure that you are in the control of your employees. You make sure that your employees uh, have a kind of a stable approach. They are not being judged. They're judged on the outputs and not on the other things. Their moral is boosted. You need to teach them the ethics. They have to make sure that they're following the code of conducts. So all these kind of the things which would basically help you to make sure that you are in a better control. And how do you create this is forming like an audit committee. So there is an audit committee who basically will come. There is an HR audit committee as well who checks your policies, who makes sure that your policies are correct. And on they basically do what they do is they make sure that the atmosphere in your company is pretty relaxing. Your targets are being achieved, but still making sure that your employees are also satisfied. The more satisfaction the employees get, more it becomes easy for you to delegate the things. There would be an anti-corruption policy, there would be an anti-fraud policy. There would be a hotline number when if a vendor is going to tell them that, okay, if you are going to give me this order, I'm going to pay you so much amount. So if you get these kind of conversation, then you always have a hotline available wherein you can always connect with the company's person and tell him that, look, this is what is happening with me. This usually happens in cricket. There's a cricket anti-corruption helpline, wherein if a person is receiving a calls from a bookie to manipulate the match or manipulate the information, then they have to immediately inform the control board. That is what is called as anti-fraud policies or ethical policies which the company wants the employees to work on. So this is like a quick overview of kind of in your ethical practices. So if you see, technically there is not much to go with this module. It's kind of a very small module, but it has a weightage of 15% in your CMA and 10% in your FMAA. So again, a scoring part of it. So just make sure that you are pretty familiar with this. You start studying on priority. So with this, the FMAA class is somehow complete. There would be another session which would be happening next Sunday. That would be more of a question answer session wherein if you have any doubts, any other confusions, you can always tell me. And that would be one of the last classes which we would be having with respect to your Sunday sessions. Your Friday session will still be continuing, but then this would be the last class. The next Sunday would be your last class. Just come up with your doubts and we can have a quick discussion on that. Till then, does anybody have any questions on this? If no, we can close the things off.
Sir, hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
So can you please share this PPT with us?
This PPT is something which is a Hawk PPT.
Okay.
So I am not sure if I am allowed to do that, but you can take screenshots if you want. But I will try to share you a better version of it wherein it has a kind of a notes to it.
Okay.
So just give me a moment. Let me just check it out for you. Okay, what I'll do is I'll check with the coordinator if I can share this. And then probably the coordinator would be able to share you this, because this is something which is from the Hawk material, to be very honest. If you see this, it comes from Hawk. So it's into this video slides actually, but I'll try to get in touch with the coordinator on this. But meanwhile, what I'll suggest is, I guess I have shared some kind of an ethical questions over the email. So just try to go and try to solve those questions. See, there are not much questions here, to be very fair. If you see this 4 and 8 is 12, 18, and then this is almost like only 50 questions are there, guys. So only 50 questions you need to practice. Once you practice all those 50 or 60 questions, you're done with your 15% of your syllabus. So what we can do in the next class, the first time we can keep on solving these MCQs, because what is going to happen is because it has a less number of questions, the variety is very less, even with the examiner. So the questions would be repeating itself. So just make sure that you have a kind of a good base onto it. I've already shared these questions to you guys with respect to your on the emails. So you can have a look at that. And this is kind of a very scoring thing. So you just make sure that you get 100% from your ethics. So you get 100% in your ethics, and you get almost 100% in your CVP analysis. That gives you a good 40% coverage of the schedule. And then you can concentrate on your smaller sections. So if you see, there are only 215 questions, and there are only 68 questions in this risk management. So 84 questions here and 68 questions here. Only 140 questions you have to make sure that you're doing it. That covers your good amount of portion. 25% you're covering it here, just by solving 150 questions. All the questions, what you need to do is you just solve in your copy. And then there would be a few questions wherein you would be having a difficulty. So just note those questions down. And then you can easily clear your examinations. So I'll try to figure it out if I can share that. If then you will receive it over the email.
Okay, sir.
Any other questions anybody has? Or we can conclude the class. It's almost 2 hours and probably 10 minutes now. So okay. Thank you guys for your time. Happy Sunday. Then I'll see you on Friday in the Body Bender class.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.